Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Arts and you shall receive. Lots of you messaged us, sent in questions, wrote emails saying, what are you doing for the first class season? Are you going to talk about the teams? Are you going to give the fans an insight into who's been selected? And yes, we are. It's the long-awaited return of red ball cricket in the Caribbean. We haven't seen four-day cricket domestically since February 2020. When COVID brought a premature end to the 2019-20 season. It's been a long old time. I'm Ashel St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And well, in fact, if you're watching on the screen, the band is back together. I can't believe I didn't start this way. The band is back together for this particular episode, the original three. Myself, of course, and handing straight over to the other two partners in crime. Santogi, how you doing?
Yeah, Masha, as you said, the triple threat is back. We're with our fellow co-host who needs no introduction to long-time viewers. But for those of you just joining us who have just tuned into Caribbean Cricket Podcast, we're joined by Nikhil. Boy, Michelle, I don't even know. It'll take an hour to list his accolades, but you might have seen Nikhil presenting at the ICC Under-19 World Cup. We've managed to get an agreement with his agent. He's given us some precious time to appear on the show. So, Nikhil, thank you for joining us. How are you doing, man? It's been a long time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, guys. Why are y'all trying to cover up the fact that, because the podcast has grown so big, you guys have tried to go all around the world to these analysts and all that. I'm just grateful that I've been given this opportunity now, to rejoin the old crew.
But you know what, Nikhil? Obviously, we've spoken about the return of red ball cricket, but I think it would be remiss of us to not give you the platform in general, just to quickly talk about that Under-19 World Cup experience. Obviously, West Indies, we came 11th, but the tournament as a whole, a thrilling final to end it all, India being crowned the Under-19 World Champions. Just briefly, Nikhil, what was it like to be there, the talent you saw on show, etc., etc.?
Yeah, so I was in the Trinidad portion, which had Group D in the group stages, and then luckily enough, I got to see the West Indies up close because they were in the plate competition, what I would have commentated on. I think the standard overall was fantastic in the tournament. What I was also really happy to see was a lot of the associate nations like a Uganda, like a UAE, produce some really, excellent talents. I mean, the UAE are an associate nation. They actually beat a full member in the West Indies. Also beat Ireland in the final of the plate to win that and qualify for the next World Cup. So I think there was some really competitive battles, and it was, for me personally, a really tremendous experience, meeting a lot of people along the way. And Mash, I think it's so fitting that we're discussing red ball cricket now in the Caribbean, because having that last game for the West Indies, where they had to win against Zimbabwe, and speaking after the game to the two Centurions, Teddy Bishop and Kevin Wickham. Teddy Bishop, all he could talk about was the Windward Islands and his that new experience for him. And even for Kevin Wickham, who's going to go back to Barbados now, he really wants to be seen as an emerging player in Barbados and be given a developmental contract under the BCA. So I think we always speak about bridging that gap between the under-19 level and the senior level. And I think the first class setup is the right way to do it. And I'm really grateful that after 2 long years, we can finally have some red ball cricket again.
Most definitely. And thank you for that, Nikhil. And like I say, as Santoki said at the top, by now you need no introduction. But as ever, people, if you aren't following Nikhil at Nick Uttam, Uttam, make sure you go follow Nikhil. We said it at the very beginning about 2 years ago. And we're saying it still now. Nikhil is going to be the next big thing behind the mic, in front of the mic in Caribbean media. So make sure you're following Nikhil. But as we said, or as I said at the top, it's the return of the red ball season. And what we're trying to do here at the Caribbean Cricket Podcast is give a bit of an insight into every single team, a specialist behind every nation in the competition. We're going to start off with the defending champions. Some people probably forgot, as much as that season was curtailed in 2019-2020, the Barbados Pride were well out in front. They were crowned the champions. We had 2 rounds remaining when that season got called off, but the Pride were handed the championship and were deserving champions at the time. And off the back of that 2019-2020 team, it led to players like Kyle Mayers making their way into the West Indies squad and being somewhat as a bit a staple in the West Indies Red Ball squad as a result. But Nikhil and Santoki, the squads are about to be formally announced at the time of recording, but Barbados have announced their squad anyway. I'm going to put it briefly up on the screen to read out the names, and then Nikhil's going to take us through kind of like the key talking points to do with this 2022 Barbados Pride squad. So here we go. In order, Craig Brathwaite, obviously the Test captain, but Barbados captain. Jonathan Carter, Shane Dowrich, Jonathan Drakes, Justin Graves, Keon Harding, Chame Holder, Chamar Holder, Akeem Jordan, Shane Mosley, Raymond Reifer, Shamar Springer, Jamel Warrican, and the reserves, Tavane Walcott and Ramon Simmons. It's a packed squad for sure. It's got a lot of West Indian internationals in it, or people who have got caps for the West Indies. There's one big name that's going to be the big talking point, which I won't get into. I'm going to leave that for Nikhil. But Santoki, do you want to take it away? I know, Santoki, that obviously you're flying the Guyana flag, I'm flying the Jamaica flag, but this looks like a strong Barbados Pride squad. Obviously missing some big names, but they'll be with the West Indies, of course.
Yeah. They ended, as we know, they ended the Guyana dynasty on the Red Ball Championship, and they'll be looking to do it again this year. But Nikhil, let's just talk us through some new names in this squad, and what should people expect from any unfamiliar names they might find in this squad?
Yeah, well, when you look at some of the names, obviously in this 13-man squad, you guys hearing me, right?
All good.
Hello, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, when I was just looking at this squad, I think for people who may not know some of the names, you look at someone like a Jonathan Drakes, who, I mean, he's played a lot of list A cricket, but not a lot of red ball cricket. He's been in and around the West Indies. That fifth list, which is, I think, 26, would have played a lot of cricket for the CCC, would have played the West Indies under 19 cricket as well. So I think people will know that name a bit more. But when you look at some other Shemdas, one people may not know too well, would have played one season for the Lee Islands, up again alongside Rakeem Cornwall. He's an off spinner, someone who I think is extremely talented. He's had to wait a long time behind the likes of Ashley Nurse. Obviously, it's really hard in cricket to play, in modern cricket, especially in the ball format, to play two off spinners and then have a Jamal Warrican or so many others in terms of that spin department. So he's had to wait patiently on his turn. But I really think he's deserved this. He's worked hard, picked up 5 wickets total in the first warm-up game. And I really expect to see how he, with a consistent run of games, can filter in at the highest level, at the elite first-class level. Down the list, Akeem Jordan is one that, again, people should know from the Super 50, did very well for Barbados. Actually averages 22 for Barbados in white ball cricket. So he's always had the ability, but no real red ball experience. So looking forward to seeing, when he does get the nod alongside a Shamar Holder or Keon Harding, how he can fit in and sort of be bowl in tandem with those two. Relies a lot on swing over the conventional pace, and I'm looking forward to, as I said, seeing him. And then just coming on the list, I mean, people will definitely know Shamar Springer, all-rounder. He's had to really wait because they've had Dominic Drakes in the team. They've had Kevin Stout as an all-rounder, Kyle Mayers, obviously, in that season where he scored big runs. So the all-rounder position in Barbados has always been tough. But now Springer and Reifer come in, I think it'll give them a new dynamic, the Pride, going forward. So those are pretty much the new names in the squad. The 2 reserves, Tavane Walcott, wicketkeeper batsman, has played 50 for Barbados, has played first-class cricket for Barbados. Very talented wicketkeeper batter. Obviously, you'll have to wait his turn because of Shane Dowrich. But if we do see Shane Dowrich slide back into the West Indies setup mid-season, I think Tavane Walcott definitely will take up the gloves and has done really well in the club level and has earned his pick for a couple of years now. But the Ramon Simmons one match, left arm seamer. He's actually my age, so 20 years old. And I think people were not necessarily surprised by his inclusion because he's got serious ability. We can all see the talent. He's been in around West Indies youth setups, etc. A left arm seamer, but can generate real pace, genuine pace. So I think they wanted to have him in the squad, not only for, the pace, but also as a developmental sort of, just as a developmental role for him, because they've identified the 21-year-old as someone that can really go forward, take over from the likes of Hakeem March and stuff when he comes to the end of his career. So I think that was more of a strategic long-term pick in terms of the reserves, and I'm happy for him.
And we talk about new names. We've got also Raymond Reifer in the squad, who's making his first ever appearance for Barbados. He's played for combined colleges and campus. He played for Guyana during our period of success. How important is he for the squad? What do you think he's going to add as a new face, technically, to this Barbados Pride setup?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Santoki, for obviously passing him on to us. But, oh, man, I think fantastic to have Reifer back in. I mean, you guys know how much of a fan I am of Raymond Reifer. And I think, obviously, I don't think knowing him and knowing his style, I don't think regardless of the environment, he's the type of man that will fit into whichever environment he's in. But definitely being around the likes of a Craig Brathwaite, who he plays at the same Wanderers Cricket Club with, or Shane Mosley, who also plays at Wanderers Cricket Club with, and even past those guys, Shane Dowrich, Jonathan Carter. Yes, he hasn't played for Barbados, but he's played for the Tridents, he's played for the Barbados Royals, and knows all of these guys. So he's obviously got a fantastic relationship with a lot of them. And I think just having him as that added experience will really boost a lot for Barbados Pride. I think he actually adds a tremendous amount because of his all-round ability to the team. I think this is a huge season for him. We're going to get into that a little later on. But I definitely, I'm grateful to Guyana for letting him go because I think he adds a lot. And especially without a Kyle Mears, who was so effective in that last first-class season, this could be Raymond Reifer's opportunity to have a similar season.
This is before we move on to the kind of like the next aspect, Nikhil, I'm just intrigued because as things currently stand, the schedule for the first class season, and for those who are listening or watching this back, I should say, there's only scheduled to be 5 rounds this year because of COVID, as opposed to the usual 10. And then the first 2 will be in February, and then the next 3 are scheduled to be after that England Test series is over, allegedly supposed to be in April, but we shall see. Now, if it is in April, and Santoki, you can chip in as well, we can assume that someone like a Jason Holder won't be present because he'll be at the IPL. But some of the West Indian Barbados contingent should be back. Kimar Roach should be back, for example. He won't be. Dominic Drakes is an iffy one. I don't know if he'll get an IPL deal or not, so he may well be back, for example. And so my question here is, which of the players, let me see how I want to word this, which of the players in that squad has the most to kind of prove in order to make sure that when a Kumar Roach comes back, they're not immediately shunted straight out of the Pride squad? And I guess why I say this, Nikhil, is the Pride technically have enough players to field a second team, if you see where I'm coming from. So it's hard for the Pride players, someone like a Shamar Springer, unless they're putting up stellar numbers, they could come under threat. If Kyle Mayers, for example, comes back, he won't get an IPL deal, or you assume he won't. He'll come back into contention. So who's got the most to kind of, if that's maybe it's a wrong word to use, Nikhil, but prove in this sense?
I think it's tough to say that, Mash, because when you look at this team, right, and if you look at a scenario like that where players come back in, you think of Kemar Roach, Roston Chase, Kyle Mears, the list could just go on and on and on. So I think it's hard to pinpoint a couple or maybe single out players that need to prove themselves. But I think if you look at down this list, each of these players, I think, will be working to something else. For some, it's going to be about looking at that England series, because I don't think, I don't know how much changes we'll see from the last Test series. If someone has a big 2 rounds in this first class setup, and then they do have those best v best games, go there and perform as well, could easily find themselves come March 9th in the West Indies Test squad against England. So I think that as well, and it's going to be my talking point for later on, but I think that will be playing on the minds of a lot of these guys. But being the professionals that they are, I'm sure it'll just be about taking it in stride. I don't think anyone will be looking too far ahead. For a lot of these guys, like a Shamar Springer or even a Hakeem Jordan or a Jonathan Drakes, it's a big opportunity because they haven't really played much red ball cricket for Barbados. So with the absences of a Roston Chase or a Kyle Mears or a Kemar Roach now, it's opened up doors for other youngsters to come through, like a Ramon Simmons, who probably won't get a game, but because there's no Kemar Roach, he's been named as a fast bowling reserve. Someone like a Hakeem Jordan, who hasn't played any red ball cricket because of the fact that you had Roach, Keon Harding, and Shamar Holder. But now with Kemar Roach out, you need that sort of extra fast bowler in your team. So I think that sort of will be the thinking. All of them probably will have it in the back of their minds that, when the senior guys come back, we saw it in the last season as well when Jason Holder came in to play for the last couple of games. Guys have to make way. So I think it's more about each person just making the most of their opportunity and letting the rest do the rest, really control the controllables, and whatever happens, happens.
Santoki, I was going to do the next question, but I'm going to let you intro it, Santoki. I'm just going to say a name. Santoki, I think there's a big narrative. there's a big narrative with this Pride squad, and one name. Surely anybody who's watching this, whether you're a Barbados national or even if you're just someone interested in West Indies cricket, everyone, Santoki, is probably looking at one name on that list. You want to go for it, Santoki?
Boy, yeah. So looking through that name, it would have come as a surprise to a lot of people. Shane Dowrich is included on that list. We know he's currently got legal issues with Cricket West Indies over losing his central contract. He's come back. He's in the Barbados Pride setup. We know how capable he is as a wicketkeeper and a batsman. Nikhil, do you want to just talk on the Shane Dowrich and the situation kind of going on with him at the moment?
Well, guys, he would get mad if I said too much. But what I will say is that, he's been working hard. And I think I'm really excited to see how he plays, come next week. Because from what I've seen from him, and looking at the last trial game as well, 65 not out from 72 balls, 10 boundaries. Like, I just seen a change of an approach from him. And I think he's also aware of the opportunity that he has in this first-class setup. Obviously, it's been a mental challenge. He's also had the challenge externally with the whole Cricket West Indies thing. But I think from a mental space, I think he's in a really good place. And, I mean, the ability or skill side of things was never a question. I mean, this guy is test hunter, so all seen what he can produce. It was just about him working himself back to that level where I think he can, really perform. He's had a few challenges with COVID early on, but now he's in really full flow. And he didn't play the first trial game, but now this one, 65, that blew his confidence really well going into Wednesday. And I think this is a huge 2 rounds for him.
It'd be interesting, Nikhil, to get your opinion, obviously, as an analyst and kind of looking at techniques. Who would you rate as a better wicketkeeper in the region, Josh De Silva or Shane Dowrich, if you had to pick someone?
Wow, Santoki, that's an extremely tough question. When you say wicketkeeper, do you mean like in terms of glove work as well as with the bat?
Just purely as a wicket.
Oh, just glove work.
Yeah. We know they're accomplished batsmen. We know what they can do, but in terms of if it was a head-to-head on glove work ability,
I think it's a really interesting question because when you look at it, and I think numbers will have a part to play, but I've seen both of them, keep extremely well, and I've also seen, them have their difficulties. Shane Dowrich has had his problems in New Zealand, for example, where the ball was flying, or even in England with that wobble. But I've also seen, Joshua De Silva go through the ups and downs of a test career. I think it's hard to pick between because I think they're both competent, but I've been really impressed by Josh's glove work. So maybe the slight edge because we haven't seen Shane Dowrich. That could be a bit of recency bias, but I think they're both, as you said, both accomplished batters, and I think with the gloves on as well. But maybe Josh the slight edge. I've been pretty impressed though with sort of his keeping, especially early on when he was first making his debut, etc. Like many will remember when he came in for Shane Dowrich, actually extremely well in that game as a backup for him.
Listen, I'm gonna confront this issue head on here. We all know that there are potential positions available in the West Indies middle order, right? If there's going to be a position available, it's there. Arguably, if Shane Dowrich puts together some runs in these first 2 rounds, I think we need to look at this as more than just whether he would come back as a wicketkeeper. Shane Dowrich at his best comes back as a batsman, just as a pure batsman. Just any quick views on that, Nikhil?
I think it's very valid, Mash. Given the struggles of, as you said, the middle order. I mean, this guy's got, as I said, test hundreds, averaging just under 30. Yes, it's not great, but when you compare it to what the other players in that setup at the moment, I think it's still tough to see him and Joshua De Silva play together. But that being said, I keep saying these 2 weeks because I think it's so important for both of those players. To me personally, he's definitely competent. That's not even the question. He's definitely competent to play as just a batter. But I think it'll be really interesting if the selectors do give him and De Silva the nod. But all of these things are factors and good conversations that we're having. And this is why it's so exciting to have this 2 weeks of 2 rounds of first class cricket right before a series. Because I would love to see, if they do go forward with the best 3 best games, the best performers from this first class 2 games, to go into that best 3 best game and continue to test them against some of the better bowling in the West Indies.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. That would actually make a real lot of sense, doing almost like an all-star game after you've actually had some games to look at. But moving on, Nikhil, another thing that we wanted to just ask you is Dowrich is the narrative, but if you had to pick one player and one player only to be like, watch out for this guy, you're one to watch in the first 2 games to really make an impact, who would you go for?
I think oh man, there's so many players I could pick. I'm gonna go with Raymond Reifer. I think, given his all-round ability, and what I saw in the practice games, there's also a possibility that he could bat at 3 for this Barbados team. So in a new role, he's batted at 3 in the last 2 innings of this final practice game. He's gotten starts in all of these, in all of the games, 39 in the first innings and just 17 not out in the second, but got 40 odd in the first one, batting at number 5. I think with his bowling, a new environment, a lot to prove, and that was going to be my big story from this. You look at plenty players in this that will feel they have so much to come back at, and the list goes on and on. Shane Dowrich, which we talked about. I think Shane Mosley is another one that only played 1 series against Bangladesh. We know the struggles of the opening position in the West Indies. I think he easily, will be thinking about these 2 rounds and the further 5 rounds, and just thinking about how much of a goal opportunity he has, because he scored 450 plus runs in all of his first class seasons. So he has done well at that level. So there's him. As I said, there's Dowrich. I think Raymond Reifer, who's only played 1 single test match, which sometimes I just can't believe, given the ability that he has. And he'll be looking at, again, a fragile middle order and saying, hold on a minute, if I can bat at number 3 or number 5 and continue to show that I can make runs against a new ball, I'm in with a chance, especially if I can provide something with the ball as well. So I think there's him. There's even a Shamar Holder, who obviously played against New Zealand, but because of the resurgence of a Jaden Seals and, obviously Kemar Roach, and we have Shannon Gabriel, we haven't played a lot of series where we've called a lot on fast bowling, but we will have test series, in Australia against Pakistan, etc. So this is all of these guys are ideal in terms of, cementing their place and looking forward. Jamel Warrican is another one. Versami Parmal has shown that now he could be the leading left-arm spinner. So Warrican will have a point to prove. Justin Graves just dropped after the Ireland series. He will have a point to prove. So I think in every team, not only Barbados, don't get me wrong, they're all players that have been on the fringes and have, been in and out of the West Indies setup, and they'll all have things to prove. So if I had to pick one, though, I think I would pick Reifer, because I'm excited to see how he fits in with this new role, and also if he does bat higher up the order, and that could really help him make a case for the West Indies pick.
Excellent analysis there, Nikhil. And just to wrap up, if you had to pick, come the end of the 5 rounds, you have to pick 2 sides who are going to be top of the table. Who are you picking?
Oh man, that's really tough. I think this first class has a lot of good teams. I think I'll definitely have to go Barbados. I think we've got the strongest team by a long way. No bias.
That's what I said too.
Barbados, I think, will be there. And if I have to go one more, I'm gonna go with Guyana. I think Shimron Hetmeyer, I think, is gonna have a huge season, and Guyana always up there. They've got first-class buddies, as we say, obviously winning 5 times in a row. So I think they've got a pretty decent team, and I'm expecting to see good things from them as well.
Normally, I'd be vexed that no one's mentioned Jamaica, but you know what? I'm not even mentioning Jamaica, so I can accept. I can accept that one. Listen, Anil Santoki said if you had to pick, just very, very quickly, Nikhil. There was one thing we missed off. Were there any surprising omissions? Like, I'm gonna just throw some names to you. McCaskey, Kamari Boyce, or all these people just, there's just not room for them.
I think as you said, Zachary McCaskey, obviously he's been seen as a more white ball batter in the Barbados setup, but he just scored 100 in the last practice game coming into this first class season. So he's knocking on the door as well. But I think it was tough for him to make it over Shane Mosley and obviously Craig Brathwaite as the opener. But definitely he's knocking on the door. Kamari Boyce got a 5-wicket haul. he's there. But it's very tough for these left-arm spinners. Joshua Bishop is another one that also got a 5-wicket haul. But because of Jamel Warrican being a West Indies player and already proven at the first-class level, it's going to be always tough. Ashley Nurse is another one who continues to put in performances. But I think given his experience, would have been a great asset. But I'm also at the same time, same breath, happy to see an opportunity for someone else in a Shem Holder, because I think obviously Shem Holder much younger and has a lot to still prove, whereas Ashley Nurse obviously has played international cricket and has proven. So I think that may have been one that people were a bit surprised about, but good to see sort of the selectors also going at some of the younger players and looking to see how they can react in these first 2 rounds, because this team is only for the first 2 rounds picked.
Of course. Listen, Nikhil, it's only been a brief drop in, but of course we know you're always at the end of the phone, and provided your agent lets you come on again, we shall make sure.
Why are you all telling lies, man? Come on.
Listen, any viewers, please sign up to our Patreon, because we need the funds to secure Nikhil for the next episode. So we're saving up at the moment.
But on a serious one, Nikhil, thank you so much for dropping in. Like I said, lots of you have been inundating us saying, where's your guide to the first-class season? Who are the players we need to know about? There is nobody more that we turn to in a Barbados context than, of course, to our good friend Nikhil to kind of dissect this squad. We're going to go through each squad one by one. Ahead of the first-class season. Some of them will be whilst the games are going on. But thank you so much, everyone, if you've been tuning into that. This isn't just for Barbados Pride fans. This is for anybody who's interested in the Red Ball season that is getting underway after a 2-year gap. Ladies and gents, that's been the first in the series. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.